We're so glad you're here. So we've got some questions. If y'all want to take a seat and grab your mic, we've got some questions that you guys have pre-submitted. And so we'll take those first, then we'll just kind of wing it from there. But I'd love to start by introducing everyone here. Some of them you have already heard from, and some you will hear from. We'll start with Kelsey. You guys, everyone knows Kelsey from our MC. You know her story. Isn't she doing an amazing job? An MC job is a really hard job anyway, but especially when you have so many notes and so many things to cover, like we've kind of thrown in the deep end, and she's absolutely rocking it. So we're so glad she's here. And then next to her, we have Jasmine Starr. And I'll tell you guys, I have been just such a fangirl of Jasmine for years. And like I was talking about with the band, anytime we dream up the event, I'm like, we got to get Jasmine. And this year we got her. So I'm so excited she's here. She's an expert in social media. She has an amazing story of building her own photography business and incredible awards. And now she just has a heart for helping you build your business. And what's really cool about everyone on stage is they've either built their own business or love helping people build businesses, or both. And so you're going to get some really unique perspectives, which I love the variety represented here. And then, of course, Mignon, who you just heard from, a powerhouse, our CEO of the Cupcake Collection. And then at the end, we have Stu McLaren. And I want to tell you about Stu. Stu, you're going to get to hear from also. Wow, a lot of fans. Stu has helped us in Business Boutique so much. He is brilliant when it comes to marketing. He's brilliant when it comes to membership sites, but he's also brilliant when it comes to launching. If any of you heard the podcast where I interviewed Stu, I've got some Academy video training lessons with Stu. But it's just amazing how you can be so much more effective in getting something to market if you launch it. Like, don't just kind of soft throw it out there. You have an actual event with intentional planning and you launch something, it's going to be a lot more successful, and he's brilliant at that. So we're going to take your questions, and guys, I've got some, and I'll just toss it to you guys, and then everybody can jump in on any of them. This will be fun. All right. Our first question is from Mariah. Mariah, are you in here? Yes, there's Mariah. All right, here's Mariah's question. She said, I have so many passions and dreams. How do I combine them enough to feel fulfilled, but narrow them down enough to create a focus that creates more success? Kelsey, I feel like you've been all over the place. We'll start with you, then Mignon, you take it from there.
I'm sorry. I want that one. I want that one.
Okay.
Because that's me. So I, all of my life, was considered to be sort of like a ditzy blonde. Because, this is natural. And they treated me like, stick to something. Stop changing up, stop coming up with stuff. You need to do one thing. And I learned in a class that I was taking that it's actually a gift. That what people tried to make me feel small about was a gift from God. It's called ideation. Some people have the gift of ideas. And so my encouragement to you is stop trying to not do all of them if that's what you want to do. Some of them won't be for you to make a business out of. Some of them won't be for you to keep for yourself. Some of them will be for you to share with someone else and activate someone else's idea. That all you have to do is focus on one thing, and all of the rest of them will get their platform. God says, I will open you up a window of heaven and pour you out a blessing that there will not be room enough to receive. And so that's my encouragement to you, is don't try to throw any of them away. Use them for what it is that they sort of like rise from the ashes to do. Does that make sense?
I love that too, because I love that you gave her permission to experience those, but there's a lot of wisdom in everyone won't be a business. And I think some people make that mistake, because one of the things I said earlier is because it's so easy to get into business, then we want to turn every idea into business. And I am an idea person too, and oh my gosh, all of my ideas are brilliant at the time, right? But then I love that you, as you focus, some of those things will have a place. Kelsey, you were talking this morning about pivoting. And so talk about that a little bit, because I've even seen you in the last 6 months, really bravely kind of go in a new direction. So talk about that.
Well, brave is a nice way to put it. Dabblers don't dominate. But there's a difference between being a dabbler and an explorer. And if you look at my journey, it's like Kelsey's doing 8,000 things, and I have explored. And explorers are somebody where you just want to do all the things. You want to learn all the things, you enjoy that, and you're not making a business like you said. I think there's a lot of people who dabble and they're trying to make them into businesses, and you're not going to dominate. However, the difference between a dabbler and someone who is going to do multiple things well is that you are full out. And that means you can't go full out on 50 things. You can do 50 things over the space of a decade or whatever, but with each one, you are all in. So I think if you look at your top priorities of what you want to do most, what's most fulfilling, where there's actually some cash money to be had, and then go full out. Let yourself have seasons and focus on one at a time, but that doesn't mean it's forever. And I think a lot of times entrepreneurs at the beginning feel like they're picking something for the rest of your life, and you're not. You're picking what you need to do right now.
Jasmine, talk a little bit about kind of the evolution of business, because what you started was one thing and similar to a lot of you, and now what you're doing is different. And it's just a lot of that. It's not you had so many ideas, but it's naturally evolved and you've responded to that.
Thank you. I didn't want to take the mic because, Mariah, I don't want to rob you of the blessing. So I want you to receive this, but I'm going to take it for myself too, because I do not have the gift of ideation. I am lucky enough to be paired with a human who ideates 85,000 ideas a day. And thank God he is strong enough to be, like, he's a fortress. And all I say is no, 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 no. And then I hear one and I'm like, maybe. So, Mariah, maybe you can speak ideas into others, and you just got to be strong enough to say that not the idea was bad, the idea is just not right now. And I think that in every iteration of the business, because I feel confident enough to say, as a woman in the 21st century, what you are doing now probably won't be the same thing you're doing in a decade. And the sooner that we embrace our ability to say, I can try and test new things, I just never forsake the golden egg in my business. So whatever your golden egg is, don't walk too far away from that, but try other things in equal proportions. When I take my eyes off 10% of whatever is my largest revenue generator, and I can explore and give myself the permission to do that, I can then tap around and see can I inculcate, can I protect my next venture by testing it without depending on it?
I love what you said too, and one of the things all of you guys are talking about, and we've said this, I think, in other places, but coming up with ideas, if you're a person that has that gift, because I really believe it's a gift. Some people have the gift of ideas, and some people, they just struggle. Like whenever I'm working with dreamers, are any of you in the room dreamers? Anybody? Okay. Oh, wow, there's a lot. So what I've realized with my dreamers there's two types of dreamers. There's the blank slate Betty. She has no ideas. She doesn't know where ideas come from. She wants to start a business, but doesn't have an idea. The Jane of all trades has 400,000 ideas, and they're all brilliant. And she's not sure which one to choose. I always, in my coaching with my dreamers, pair them up, Janes and Bettys, because the Janes can pull out of Betty's, well, what do you like? Well, what do you do? Well, what about this? You could do this. The Janes will have 5,000 ideas for the Bettys in a minute. And it doesn't mean they're all great ideas. It doesn't mean they're all businesses. Thank you, guys. But there's such a gift in the community there. And so I love how Jasmine talked about that, because you really can be such an asset to someone that doesn't have that gift. Stu, I thought of something, even if this isn't a follow-up question that she asked, but a question I get a lot of times that's similar to this is a fear of being too specific in their business. They pick their idea and they're just worried it's just too specific of a business. You work with membership sites that are the most niche sites I've ever seen in my life, and they're incredibly successful. So can you speak to that a little bit? Because I think a lot of people have that fear.
Yeah, I'm not a Betty or Jane. I'm more a Molly Momentum, because I'm more focused on creating momentum, because we don't know where things are going to lead. But what I do know is that you will gain more traction for yourself when you get going. Now, how do you do that? I'm actually going to talk a little bit about that in my breakout session, but I'll give you an example. So I was sharing right before we came up here, I got a message on Wednesday from a woman in our tribe. Her name's Tara, and she, in the last 16 months, built a brand new business from scratch, and she just sent me a message that she had just crossed $450,000 in 16 months. Now, here's the crazy part, okay? When we talk about going niche, she helps lashpreneurs. And I was like, what's a lashpreneur? It is a person who has a business that helps women put on eyelashes.
I mean, that's a problem, right?
I mean,
like, you're solving a problem there.
yeah, obviously, I don't really know much about this industry. But what I do know is that when you go niche in the beginning, you become known for something specific. And I'm telling you, my friends, in the beginning, it is better. You will gain more traction and more momentum when you are known for something specific. Now, here's the fear. The fear is, yeah, but Stu, if I go down that path, I'm going to be cutting off all these people, all this potential. And I'm here to tell you, you will gain way more momentum when you become known for something specific. Does that mean that you will only do that one thing for the rest of your life? No. But what that does do is it allows you to attract people into your world. And so my advice to you is the more specific you go in the beginning, the more traction you will create for yourself. And when you create momentum and traction, it will lead to all the other stuff. But the fear is that you're going to cut yourself off, that you're not going to have as much potential. And I can tell you, I know it's counterintuitive, but I see it day in and day out. Whether it's people building businesses for lashpreneurs, or whether it's teachers with lesson plans, or whether it's dog training, or whether it is massage therapy, you name it, photography, fitness, finance, I see it all. And the more specific, the more success they have.
I love that word too, because people they feel like they're leaving money on the table, but it's amazing too, because as you gain momentum in the one thing, you think that if you're going to do something new, if you switch courses, if you pivot, that you're starting completely cold, and you're not. That momentum carries over funds, your base, all that stuff plays into you starting that next thing a little bit further along. So I love that. All right, we're going to keep rolling. We got some more questions to get through, y'all. Renee says, and where's Renee? Is Renee here? All right. Oh, Renee in the front. I love it. Renee says, I know I need to set goals, but I don't know how or where to start. How do I learn to create goals for my business? I'll start with this, and then whoever wants to jump in from here. Renee, for me, one of the things that I talk about specifically is starting with the end in mind. So you're not setting a goal today or this week just based on what you think you should do on a micro level with your to-do list, because that just keeps you in the weeds of just keeping up with your to-do list, which isn't real fulfilling and isn't going to get you necessarily where you want to go. But if you start with the end in mind, so what is your vision for next year? What is the vision for 3 years, 5 years? And you back out of that, and your goals really just become the stepping stones to that vision. The goals become the mile markers, the plan on paper to get you to that vision. But it's hard sometimes. I don't know if you're like me. It's hard to imagine 3 years. I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to be doing in 3 years. Like, I'm kind of a commitment phobe, and I want to have options and all that. But maybe start with 1 year. What do you want your life and your business to look like at this time next year? Okay, I can envision that a little bit more. Then back out of that, what must be true today to get me to that vision? I love that question. We ask that question a lot of times around our office. What must be true? If we're going to get there, if we're going to pull off an awesome 2020 Business Boutique event in November of next year, what must be true today? What must be true next month? And so on. What work do I have to do? What effort do I have to put in? What sales do I have to hit to get to that end game? So I love starting with the end in mind. But what about you guys? How do you guys set goals or teach that in your lives and businesses?
I love goals, and I have goals. I have goals on my phone, on my screensaver, so I see them every day. But one of the things that I have learned over the last few years is to give yourself grace with goals. I think we can beat ourselves up a lot if we don't hit our goals or we're not making progress towards the goals. Now, with that said, one of the things that's helped me is I've gotten real clear about, what the goal is. I've got real clear about, how do I get to that goal? So, for example, when we do a launch for our products and services, we have a launch goal. But what I know to be true is that in the way that it's the way that I show up and the strategy I have and the way that I show up will lead to that goal. And so for me, it's like I'm more concerned about how I show up and who I'm going to be serving and how I'm going to serve them. And that's the focus, because at the end of the day, hate to break it to you, but there's 1,000,001 things that can happen that can derail a goal that we have no idea is going to, occur. And so because of that, you got to give yourself grace. And so for me, it's about how do I need to show up in order to give myself the best possible chance for that goal to happen. And so I'm more focused on how I show up than the goal itself. But obviously, they're tied together, if that makes sense.
I think it's also, too, even like you're talking about, so many things can go wrong. You're constantly reassessing them, because I think we interchange goals and resolutions, like New Year's resolutions. I'm going to set goals in January, never revisit them. I'm holding myself accountable in November to something that no longer matters to me, or my life has changed, my business priorities have changed. I use this example, it's silly, but in every single spring, I run the country music marathon, or the half marathon, and I love this race, and so I was training for it last spring, and in March, I was actually on my way to a business boutique event. and a man dropped a suitcase on my head and I had a concussion. And so I couldn't keep training and I had to stop training and not run that race. Now that may seem like the most obvious thing in the world, like, well, of course you wouldn't run. But it was so hard for me to let go of that goal. And I think we do that. Apply that to any area of your business. You set a goal and then we don't give ourselves grace. We're holding our feet to the fire when something in your life, big or small, has changed, or maybe you just changed your mind. Maybe you just changed your priorities. And so I love that of giving yourself grace and reassessing, is this still the right goal? Am I still on track for the right thing that's the most important to me? So I love that example.
I was just going to say, too, I think more than anything, goals just give you the clarity in terms of which direction you're going. You know, and that is the most important thing for all of us as entrepreneurs, is just having that clarity of direction. And I think, you know, so from a goal-setting perspective, that's why I love goals. It gives me clarity in terms of the direction I'm heading, and then it's all about how I show up to be able to get there.
We've got a question here from Elizabeth, and I actually love this question because I would bet that everyone in this room has felt like this at one point or another. Elizabeth, are you in here? Where's Elizabeth? Oh, awesome, right here in the front too. She says, what do you do when you feel like you're spinning your wheels and not moving forward? So you were talking about momentum, but just in general, we've all been in that spot where you feel like I'm running and I'm on a treadmill and I'm not going anywhere. So let's talk about how you get through that.
Stu is much smarter than I am, so I would like to hear him talk. But I know that something simple that works for me when I feel like I'm spinning my wheels is I give the thing I want to get. And in a very simple term, many of us in this room are frustrated with maybe not getting the type of engagement that we would want on social. Very simple example. And oftentimes we wonder, it must be about me. My content's not good, my family's not cute, my house is messy. It's not. People just don't know who you are. And so if you were to walk into this room and stand in the corner and say, why is nobody talking to me? Because you're not talking to anybody. So you give what you want to get. And when you want grace, you have to give grace. And when you want your business goals to be achieved, the fastest way you get there is by helping somebody else achieve theirs. That is the thing that I have learned. I have made many mistakes. I never want to hold a mic and not be say like, oh, there was a few things in my past that like, still really embarrassed, kill me. But the grace that was extended to me has served as a marker that, girl, you got to show up 10 times for others. So we must give the things that we want to get.
I love that, and that's such a great life lesson. Like, that's not just a business lesson. Like, it's amazing how reciprocal things are. This sounds so silly, but even as you were talking, I felt God urge me to do that with my husband. Y'all know I joke about how my husband has no feelings. I think he has feelings. He just doesn't show them. But I was going through this phase where I was like, Lord, I just wish he would like see me or like express his feelings or compliment me more. And I felt God say, give the thing you want to get. And I just started showering my husband with compliments, and it worked. He just reciprocated the crap out of that. It was awesome. So, but it's funny, it's true in anything. It's not a manipulation thing. It's taking the focus off of being a taker instead of being a giver. And that's really what we're doing in business anyway and as believers. So go ahead, Christy.
I am an artist and a creative, so I'm just like always making things, and it's all very, butterflies and fun times. So when I find nothing's working, I actually stop and make a chart of what I've been doing, what has been the ROI on that, how much time am I actually spending, how much money have I actually invested, and I look at all the different things I've been putting my energy into. And usually on paper in black and white, you're gonna see. But sometimes in our head and in our heart, we can't see straight anymore. But on paper, the numbers don't lie, y'all. So if you're creative like me, I challenge you to actually write down and actually say, what have I actually done this week? The last week, where did I spend my time? Where did I invest my money, etc.?
That's a really good word. We do that around our business. Dave is always challenging the leadership team, but it's hard when you put it on paper because it could be the thing you love so much that's just so much fun isn't working at all. And you're like, but I love it. But the market doesn't love it. So that's a really, really good word. Stu, did you want to jump in on that one? Spinning wheels?
It's back to Molly momentum. Just look at like, where is the energy, And so for me, again, when I'm spinning wheels, I want to get the quickest win possible because wins create momentum. And so what could be the biggest win today? Like a real simple example. When I travel, one of the things that I find difficult is fitness. I love fitness. Like at home, I'm a runner. I play soccer a couple times a week. But when I'm on the road, I don't know what it is, but it just derails me. And so I was sharing this with my mastermind group, and they encouraged me. They said, well, what could be like one little thing that you could do when you're on the road? And I'm like, well, I could do 50 push-ups in my hotel room. they're like, great. And I know that doesn't sound like much, but that creates momentum. And so I did the 50 push-ups, and I was like, sweet, and what it does, and now it creates a rhythm. And my mastermind would check in, and they're like, did you do another 50 today? And I was like, no, not yet, but I did another 50 because it doesn't take me, a couple minutes, And so at the end of the day, success and momentum, it happens when you just start doing something. You got to start doing something. What kills me the most is when I see entrepreneurs spinning their wheels, thinking. And I just want you to start doing. Just do something, anything. Just start doing something because it will lead to the next thing, which will lead to the next thing. And then you'll create momentum for yourself. And that's the most important thing in business is creating momentum for yourself.
I love that. We have a question here from Bridget. Where's Bridget? Hey, Bridget. All right, I love this question, and I think a lot of people have been in your shoes regardless of the type of business. So I'm going to read this. It's a little bit longer. She says, I'm in the research phase of a wellness coaching business with a focus on whole foods nutrition. I have the story, the knowledge, the training, and an unstoppable desire to help others. I love that. However, my personal journey is not finished yet, and my appearance doesn't match that of others in my field. Perfect role model of health and nutrition. If I launch before my journey is complete, do I risk failing from the start, or is this simply a case of imposter syndrome? I'm going to start, and then everybody, I'm sure, will just bring it on this because I can feel it. Where you are is your unique position. Where you are is your connection point. Where you are is your credibility. Where you are is the thing that's going to make someone choose you over someone else. It's not a weakness. It's actually the strength that God wants to leverage in you of connecting with people as you walk this out. So I just want to encourage you, the thing that you feel like is holding you back, I think can be the thing that can propel you forward. But everyone else hop in on this one because but people feel that. They feel like I have to be, let's apply it to any business. I have to be the expert. I have to be, have X number of followers. I have to have XYZ experience, income, whatever. And the truth is, you don't even have to be the best to add value. You're better than someone. You have more knowledge than someone. You can help someone that's a little bit behind you in their journey, regardless of the business. So, but y'all hop in here on this. I think a lot of people feel that holds them back until they're some level of perfect or some standard, regardless of the business.
I guess for me, I'm the prime example of exactly what you just said. I mean, I'm going to open a bakery and I don't know how to bake. I think that it goes back to what I said from the stage. We are arrogant to believe that we came up with these ideas anyway. They're not yours. You were tasked with it. And so you've been called into something. I think a lot of times we're so busy thinking that we've been buried when we've actually been planted, that God is wanting us to grow into what he's calling us to do. And so I want to encourage you that you're probably the most amazing one yet, because what would I have ever thought when I started this? I wanted field trip money. That's all I wanted. I wanted to help with the light bill sometimes so that we could have it all the time. And now we are sending other people through school and helping with college funds and all of that kind of stuff, and voted best wherever we are because of God, not because of us. And so if you realize that it's when you go in obedience to what he called you to do, you already said it, you have everything. But when you go in obedience to the path that he's led you on, he is responsible for the outcome, not you.
I just love that Mignon is so spiritual because I feel like that is the truth with a capital T. Like she could just drop the mic and walk out. But let's actually look at this from pragmatic business world. In this tiny little land called Hollywood in California, they have coined the phrase, the hero's journey, because we don't pay millions and millions to watch Rocky beat the Russian in the first scene. We don't pay to watch Russell Crowe kill the emperor in the first scene. We pay to watch the struggle. Why? Because we self-identify. And we want to say that when the lions come out from the den, and when the Russians impede on us, and when we're beating that cow in the freezer, and when we're running up the Philadelphia staircase, we see us doing that and we say, it is possible for us. Your story is waiting to be told. The question is, do you want to tell it? That's just it. Because we want the hero's journey, boo.
What is the best way to handle copycats in your business? And I do see this a lot with online businesses. of people stealing stuff and not giving credit. And even just in the online space, the Instagram space, it drives me crazy when I see the one quote going around from 5,000 people and no one's given credit. Even if you don't know, just put anonymous, don't know, stole it from 5,000 other people. What do you guys see in your different businesses of just people stealing or copycats?
Well, I put out 2 videos a week, and it never fails. Later, I'll be like, oh, wonder where that person got that idea for their video, right? It happens a lot. And I really had to pray through that, to be totally honest with you. And what I realized was that if we are really trusting that it's not coming from us anyway, then we have to believe that the next idea is coming. Like when I started my video talk show, not very many people had video talk shows. And then it was like, wait, this girl is a nobody, and I really is out here doing this. We have a whole video crew. And all of a sudden, like, seriously, everyone had video talk shows, and I had to believe the next idea was going to come, the next interesting interview was going to come, the next interesting video idea. You have to choose, and that's when, if you hear like an abundance mindset, which can get woo-woo and weird, but really, it's trusting God. It's trusting God for the next thing is going to come.
I love how Maya Angelou says you can't use up creativity. The more you use, the more you have. And it goes back to that abundance mindset. But I think that's a really good piece of advice. I saw or I heard about an episode of Shark Tank. This was a couple years ago where there was this issue of copyrights and someone stealing, a patent, that kind of thing. And the advice one of the sharks gave him, I think it was actually Mark Cuban, said, yeah, you could take it to court. Yeah, you could spend thousands of dollars on lawyers. Yeah, you can pursue it. Yeah. Or you can just out-business them. You can just be better. You can just serve your customers better, build a better relationship with your customers and your tribe. And that's not to say that you're going to let people walk all over you, but I think the one person that stole your one idea that has 2 followers and one's her mom, that's probably a waste of your time to track her down and, virtually beat her up because she took your, just go come up with new ideas and serve your customers better. That would be my advice. I mean, obviously there's nuances to the situation, but that's a real thing in the online world. Go ahead, Stu.
I'm glad I did my push-ups this morning because we got Rocky going on here. We got Christy talking about beating a girl up. I mean, I'm telling you. But here's the thing. Here's the number one thing that'll safeguard you against all competition. Are you ready for this? It'll safeguard you against any competition. Your community. And so this is why I'm a huge believer in membership and community. Because your people show up not just for your product. They show up for you. They show up for the connection in your community. And so the thing is, when you build that, it doesn't matter who rips you off. And the thing that I would say is that sometimes you want to give those people grace because what they're doing is they see something in you that they want to model. And there's nothing wrong with that. We all want to model. We all want to pick and choose, and we all want to, take from others and from inspiration. But what I'm saying to you is that at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter when you have a community around your products, around your services, and that, my friend, is who you show up for. Because when you show up for them, they're going to show up for you. And they show up for you in the way that they will reach out to those people and be like, that ain't your original material. And it's way better when they do that than when you do it. And I remember, to give credit where credit is due, I heard a great quote from Tony Robbins one time. I was at an event, and he was telling the story of how a young 20-something male came up to him in the audience and said, I'm going to be where you are in just a few years. And Tony looked at him and he said, that's awesome. You'll be where I was. But you won't be where I'm going. And I was like, oh, yes! So at the end of the day, it is exactly what Christy said. It's just about, at the end of the day, building a thriving community around you. That's, to me, our safeguard. And then above and beyond that is just to outmarket and outbusiness.
I love what you said, too, because you said they may try to be like you, but there's only one you. It doesn't matter if they copy your stuff, they're not you. And if you build a community that's showing up for you, then they can copy your stuff, but they're not you. So I love that idea of community. That's so powerful, and Stu's going to be talking about that in his breakout. Okay, we've got a question here specifically for Jasmine. Jasmine, this is from Melissa. Sorry, where's Melissa? Melissa, great, awesome. Melissa says, how did you gain so much knowledge about social media marketing, and where's the first place that newbies should start to attract ideal customers?
I am just a girl from the hood. with immigrant parents who was homeschooled, didn't learn to read till I was 11. I was also never the person who was like a standout in the center of the room. I was never the person who was talking. I was always like a looker and a watcher. And I think that that served me well until I was about 25, when I realized that the only way you become a master of your craft is by doing, and then in just bracing the suck. Because it just really, really, really sucks. And people say, okay, so where do I go, Jasmine? And I'm like, okay, so little secret website, Google. Like, if you want to know about social media, well, you can follow me. And you know that those are derivatives of ideas of Mashable and Reddit and Forbes and TechCrunch. I've come to believe that there are people who are curators, and I'm curating what I have and I'm synthesizing it for the small to medium-sized business owner, because who of us in this room want to go through threads and threads of Reddit? And so you come to me for a distilled version, and people say, how did you learn it? I read it. How do you want to know what you want to do? You read it, and then you synthesize it from your point of view. And people will invest and trust your point of view. And when it comes to finding your dream customer, I've come to believe and know with all of my heart, you have to know her like she is your best friend. So you know where she is on the internet. So you know how to hack in to the cultural conversation. And I use this often, and I will use it again. If I was a wedding planner or a jewelry designer or a florist, I would be inside of the Bachelor hashtag creating content that pertains to Bachelor Nation, but from my perspective with what I do. Because if I took a picture of my dog and hashtag The Bachelor, makes no sense. If I take, oh, this is the color palette that I would choose for, I don't watch The Bachelor, I have no idea who's there, but Bob and Jane, this is totally Bob and Jane. They did their great date in Thailand. I would have a Thai-based theme. I'm creating content that's pertaining to my dream customer, that's culturally relevant, inserting myself in a social conversation that I had no space in being, and yet she is there to find me.
I love it. Awesome. Okay, we're going to keep rolling. We got a few more questions. We're going to try to get through these before the end. Kayla, this question I think is for Stu. Where's Kayla? Kayla. No, Kayla. Oh, Kayla, there you are. Great, Kayla. Okay. She said, when you are a product-based business, how do you create an email marketing plan? What should we be talking about in our emails when we have a novelty item and don't want to be feeling like we're constantly selling? So we're talking about content creation here. This would apply to email, but it really could apply to social, anything. Stu, you want to take it, and then we'll go from there.
Can I ask a follow-up question to you? You have products that you want to sell? What kind of products? Bottle openers for heroes. Okay, so why did you create them to sell them? Okay, so listen,
He's off the stool.
I'm gonna get a little
Here we go.
fired up here.
Fasten your seatbelt.
Because listen, I want you to sell those bottle openers, and I don't want you to be ashamed of selling those bottle openers. The reason, how many of you? Be honest, because I have my hand raised. How many of you don't like selling? Hands in the air. Okay, look around the room. You are not alone in this. You want to know what helped me get over this? Because I love selling. I love selling, and I love making money. Because the money is not about what it does for me. It's not about the money. It's about what the money makes possible. And the thing that I want you to realize is that when you have a product or a service or information or a message that you want to share, you need to get it out into the world. Your business depends on you selling those things. So here's what I would share with you. The way that you create an amazing email follow-up sequence is you just share stories of people using your bottle openers. You share stories of people gifting your bottle openers. You share stories of the moments that those bottle openers are being used for and celebrated with. It's stories, stories, stories. You will see in my breakout session, I would say, it would be interesting to count, but I will probably guess anywhere between 30 to 40 stories during my presentation. Some will be quick littles, others will be a little bit longer, but I share story after story after story. And I share stories of people in all kinds of different age brackets, all kinds of different markets, all kinds of different levels of progress in their business. And the reason is because every story matters. You heard it up here already. People connect to the stories. And so I want you every week sharing stories of people using your bottle openers. I want you sharing the funny moments. I want you sharing the tender moments. I want you sharing the moments when people are gifting them and when people are using them. I want you to share stories, 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 over and over again, because at the end of the day, you do want to make sales and you do want to be communicating with your audience. And I want you to take it full in. You are in business to create business, to make sales. And there is nothing wrong with sharing stories. Sure, the reason we hesitate to sell is because we don't want to be aggressive. We don't want to be that person who is over-aggressive and slimy and sleazy. And you're not when you share stories, because it's not about you. It's about the people that your products are serving. Does that make sense? You're welcome.
Yes. There's a reason that every single speaker you'll see tells stories. From me telling stories about Conley to Dave telling stories about Space Camp. Well, we all have stories. That's the reason we tell Mignon's story. Kelsey shared some of her story. What's interesting, this is for selling, but it's for anything you do. If you lead a team, if you want to inspire people in any way, if you want to lead and influence in any way, tell stories. There's incredible research about our brain and how our brain works. And research shows that when a person tells a story, the listener's brain is more active. It's activating more areas of the brain than flat information, than PowerPoints, than any other type of communication. It shows the listener retains the information longer. They embrace it more. They feel what you're feeling. It's incredibly impactful when you tell stories. There was the TED Talk, I think it was Brian Stevenson, that received the longest standing ovation in TED history, spent 60% of his time telling stories. He's only got like 18 minutes. 60% of that was story. And it's tempting to think when I'm communicating, whether it's an email, a social campaign, when you've got a 45-minute keynote, you've got an interview online, it's tempting to think, let me cut the fluff. These stories are the only reason anything else matters. It's the only reason they can hear your point, understand your sale, understand your business or the problem you solve. It's the story that draws them in and builds the relationship. So I love that you camped there because that's important for selling, but for any aspect of communication in your business. Okay, we're going to keep rolling here because we got to think a couple minutes. This question is from Alexis. Where's Alexis? Awesome. Alexis asked this question, and I'm going to ask it the way that she asked, but I also want us to just expound because I think a lot of people ask a variation of this. She asks, how do I get my husband to realize with owning my own business, I have to bring work home? Now.
Well, hang on. Her husband just gave her a look like, what?
I feel like this is about to get so interesting.
Do we need to go outside for some bro time while they answer this question?
If we had longer than 2 minutes, I would bring them both up. This could get so fun. Here's the question I think a lot of people ask, though. A lot of people ask it this way. They phrase it slightly differently, but we can just answer in general terms here. How do I get my husband to support my dream? How do I get my husband to get on the same page? How do I get my husband to kind of get it?
And can I just acknowledge the fact that he's here?
Yeah.
Like, let's just give him a big round of applause.
Yeah. Stu's like, let me start by speaking up.
Like, girl, you're already ahead of the game.
Yes.
But I'll let the ladies take over from here.
So let's hop in from there. How do you get on the same page with your spouse, get them to support your dream, in her case, to understand that she's taking work home?
I just would not put any expectation on somebody else because I do not expect anybody to co-sign on my dream. It is my objective to silence any fear and doubt and unbelief with my dedication, with my wherewithal, and with my success. I could never ask my husband early on to become a business partner. I wanted him to, but we had bills to pay, and somebody had to keep us tethered. And it wasn't until I went to him and said, this is what I am doing. It would mean the world to me if you were on board. And if not, that's okay. I have to hire somebody else. That's very different than standing across the bed with a pile of dirty laundry and say, you don't support me. That's not getting anybody anywhere. It's you have to step away and say, I see what you are bringing and I see how you're the foundation. Thank you for giving me this. I don't hold you to it. I would like you to. And if not, that's okay. Let me know now and let me know how to make those adjustments moving forward.
I love how Chris Hogan says, he says, an expectation you don't communicate is called a thought. And I think a lot of times we hold people to expectations that we didn't communicate. And so I'll just share from my relationship with Matt, because my job is I travel a lot, and with young kids, a lot of it is simply just having a conversation. It's sitting down and saying, hey, what does the next month look like for our family? What have you got going on? What have I got going on? Hey, would it be okay during this season? I've had those same talks where I'll say, hey, the last month of the last few weeks of July, I'm editing my books. I'm going to be working every night. Is that okay with you? Do we need to get childcare? Like, how can we honor you and me, my dream, your time, my time, in the context of our family? And sometimes just a conversation, but we miss that, as simple as it is. We just run really hard, and then we have the laundry conversation and don't know why it ends up being on different pages. So I think just a conversation a lot of times.
Christy, can I add one
cut that
thing
out.
that's been helpful in my marriage? My wife was a teacher, grade 1 teacher for 10 years, and didn't have any interest whatsoever in business. Now, she loves business. She's got her own business. In fact, she's on an adventure trip right now with a whole group of women that are touring down the coast of California. So what made that shift? It's kind of like what everybody's sharing here. It didn't happen overnight, but it happened over time. And one of the things that was most helpful for us was we created clear boundaries for each other. So my day, it ends at 4 p.m. And then I'm with the kids and the family, and there's no work. That's just kind of our rule. That's kind of our rule. But with that said, there are some times of the year when business does get busy, and I do need to be committed outside of those family times. And so we communicate that ahead of time. And because we communicate that ahead of time, it's like a safe ground at that point. You know what I mean? If what I used to do is I used to make the mistake of like, oh, I'm gonna try to hope, I want to try to do my best, but Amy would be like, are you coming to bed? And I'd be like, yeah, I'll be up in 5 minutes. And then 20 minutes, are you coming to bed? Yeah, just give me another 5 minutes. And then another half hour, and she's like, forget it. And then I'm in the doghouse, and I had every intention of going up in 5 minutes, and it just kept going. So now it's just like, if I'm gonna be late, I'm gonna say, I'm gonna be an hour. And she then, for her, can easily close off. And so I just think it's about creating rules as a family. Another rule for us as a family is that I'm never away more than a week in 1 month. And if I am, if it comes to a point where there's 2 different things happening that month, I have a choice. I either say no to one of them, or we bring the kids with us. And so the kids often come with us, as an example. So I think it's about creating just some very simple ground rules that you can use as a baseline for communication.
I want to say this is important. So one of the things I think a lot of times when people are like, my husband's not supportive or my spouse isn't supportive. Well, for me, for example, I'm out auditioning, constantly getting rejected, asking to speak, asking to have people interview, be on my YouTube show. And for years, all my husband heard was my complaining. All he heard was I was discouraged and I was working so hard and nothing was happening, and that's all he heard. You got to find an accountability buddy, find someone at this event who gets the struggle and gets the hustle, because if they're not entrepreneurial, they do not get it, and let that person be your sounding board. And now, I tell him, obviously, if I'm upset or struggling or something, I'm sure you're shocked, but he can tell pretty clearly what's going on. But I am intentional about sharing my wins with him. I am intentional about talking about the good part of the day before I talk about and then somebody said, no thanks, but no thanks to speaking or whatever. So watch what you're actually explaining to them, what your business is and how it is for you.
Good, I love that. Okay, so our time is up, but this last question's really good, so I'm gonna make a challenge for us. Here we go. I'm gonna ask the question. It's about life balance, which we all have had that question 5,000 times. So here's the deal. We're gonna all answer it. You get 1 sentence. So you get to answer this question with 1 sentence. This is gonna be a challenge for all of us who are speakers. Here we go. Cindy, where's Cindy? Cindy's in the back, okay. She said, I'm trying to figure out how to balance my work and family. Everyone has experienced that struggle. Say yes. Yes. I get asked this everywhere I go. I know y'all get asked this too, so we need to talk about it, but we're gonna talk about it quick. She said, I have come from a 7 to 4 job. Now I have a blessing of working my own hours and enjoying my family. I don't want my hours of work to take away from my family. So we each get 1 sentence, and this is gonna be just little sound bites because we gotta wrap this up for you guys. But I will say this, the one thing that's helped me have permission when it comes to life balance is I realized it's not doing everything for an equal amount of time. It's about doing the right things at the right time. So that's really helped me. All right, you guys, here we go.
Quit defining work-life balance by what other people, other families, and other marriages say work-life balance is, and you figure out work-life balance for you.
Good.
I'm not gonna waste any time. They said it perfectly. That's true. They literally took
Get out of here.
No, they literally took the words out of my mouth. I say that with all sincerity. This right here is the perfect culmination.
I love it. Mignon.
I don't think I ever achieved it. And I think I think it was evident. And then I just feel like it was always to understand that you're gonna lose some things. This is what investment is like. All investments that you make will not produce, just wins. There's gonna be some stuff that falls on the wayside. It's a choice.
Awesome. Stu?
More success won't create more balance.
That'll preach right there.
More success will create more opportunity. So what I would advise is going back to good old Stephen Covey from the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, which is make the main thing the main thing. And so just realize that have patience with yourself as it relates to business, because as business owners, when opportunity comes, we think, this is it, this is the one, this is the only one, I have to do this. And then the next one will come and you keep doing that. So just make the main thing and have the patience of knowing that success will come as long as you have a good foundation.
Y'all, aren't they amazing? Give our panel a round of applause. Thank you guys so much for being here.